Many people hold on to the comforting belief that virtue alone clears the path toward success. Yet history and human interaction reveal a different pattern that unsettles such confidence. If goodness were enough, countless kind and honest individuals would have already reached the height of their ambitions. Yet the reality tells us that sincerity without strategy often leaves people frustrated. What I am about to explore requires you to adopt both openness and skepticism, because it may cut against some lessons repeated since childhood. You have probably wondered why compassionate individuals sometimes find themselves sidelined, why fairness and transparency are occasionally repaid with manipulation, and why the most generous people end up drained rather than elevated. The answer is not always bad luck or an unjust environment. Often the missing element is the ability to merge deeply held values with sharp awareness of how people think, act, and respond in competitive or collaborative settings. Life is filled with hidden negotiations happening constantly, whether in workplaces, relationships, or broader society. And those who succeed most consistently are rarely those who cling blindly to purity of principle. Instead, they are the ones who manage to hold their integrity in one hand while shaping their approach with the other, applying judgment to context rather than assuming one simple way fits every challenge. This balance is not new knowledge. Philosophers, rulers, and leaders have recognized for centuries that human behavior follows patterns, and those who studied these patterns gained an advantage that others overlooked. To glimpse this perspective is to widen your awareness, for once you begin recognizing how psychology governs daily life, you notice repetitions everywhere. Every interaction becomes a case study, every success a blueprint, and every failure a reminder that goodness without foresight can be a weakness rather than a strength. If you prefer simplicity, the material may unsettle you because it examines corners of human behavior that polite conversation rarely touches. But if you are prepared to engage with the deeper mechanics of influence, if you are curious why pure innocence sometimes dissolves into disappointment, and if you are ready to seek a more layered approach to pursuing your goals, then what follows may shift your perspective in lasting ways. Write this affirmation to yourself as a starting point. I seek wisdom. For wisdom, not manipulation, but real comprehension of people's motives and limits, changes how you operate in the world. It makes you more capable of reaching authentic goals without discarding your sense of right and wrong. Rigid thinking is one of the first barriers that prevents well-meaning individuals from achieving their potential. Consider the many times you may have acted on sheer principle, convinced that if you stayed honest, patient, and cooperative, the result would eventually honor your effort. Yet if you look honestly at the outcomes, how often did that idealistic stance deliver measurable progress? Not just praise, not just a fleeting sense of moral victory, but actual transformation in your situation. If you struggle to identify such instances, the reason is simple. Being virtuous without being strategic narrows your effectiveness. This does not imply that kindness or honesty is misplaced. Rather, it shows that these traits, when applied without contextual awareness, produce results far below what they could. Many of us were trained under a consistent narrative from parents, educators, and leaders. Be truthful, be patient, play fair, wait for rewards. But notice the paradox. The very people who taught these lessons did not always practice them in moments when their own goals were urgent. Look carefully at their actions, and you will see that they often blended their values with nuanced choices about timing, influence, and human nature. They advised simplicity but employed complexity when stakes were high. This is not hypocrisy, it is adaptation. Life requires a compass, but it also requires navigation tools to deal with shifting landscapes. The danger of blind idealism is that it leaves you predictable. Predictability is not inherently wrong, but in competitive or unequal settings it makes you vulnerable. Those who read human behavior astutely know how to exploit patterns. If your only pattern is consistency without adaptation, you may find others bending your good faith to serve their interests. Integrity remains vital, but when it is applied without foresight, it often fails to produce the justice or progress you envisioned. Look at any figure who achieved durable impact. Their path was not pure idealism detached from strategy. It was a weaving of principle with intelligence, a recognition of when to press forward with values and when to adjust to context. This is why thinkers of past centuries observed that promises made in one era may not suit the present moment. They did not endorse dishonesty. They highlighted the reality that conditions evolve, and approaches must evolve too. The most effective people understand that strategies cannot remain rigid while the world itself changes daily. Inflexibility, whether in moral idealism or cynical calculation, leads to fragility. Societies train us to view strategic thought as selfish or manipulative, yet those who create real positive outcomes learn to reject such false binaries. They embrace a blend of sincerity and calculation, ensuring that their mission is both honorable and realistic. The world requires this dual skill set, and the only question is whether you will cultivate it. Tell yourself, I choose wisdom, because wisdom is the bridge between intention and achievement. Another dynamic worth studying is how social expectations shape behavior, often in ways that restrain you while empowering others. It may surprise you that many who achieve significant outcomes do so not by being endlessly agreeable, but by understanding when agreement hinders progress. Some people benefit when you are predictably accommodating, because it allows them to move more freely while you stay bound by expectations of politeness and forgiveness. Think of the conventional advice repeated across generations: avoid conflict at all costs, put others first, forgive without limits, always be agreeable. At first glance, these appear noble, but beneath the surface they often serve those who want you compliant. Avoiding all conflict can mean suppressing important conversations that might resolve deeper issues. Placing others' needs above your own consistently breeds resentment and imbalance. Forgiving without discernment gives repeated permission for harmful patterns. Constant accommodation blurs your boundaries until others assume they do not exist. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. A colleague cuts you off during discussions, and social teaching tells you to stay polite. You stay silent, but in doing so, you erase your own contribution. Another takes credit for your ideas, and you comfort yourself with the thought that collaboration is more important than recognition. Yet the result is that your work becomes invisible. Someone continually arrives late to commitments, and patience convinces you this is acceptable, though it signals that your time has no equal value. Each of these moments, justified by the belief that you are being good, actually trains others to see you as someone without boundaries. This is no accident. Philosophers noted long ago that people are inclined to follow immediate convenience, and those who exploit such tendencies will always find willing victims. The narrative that defending your interests is selfish is itself a form of social control, designed to keep some compliant while others act strategically. Reflect on the examples you were given by authority figures. Parents taught sharing but did not distribute resources without limits. Teachers preached honesty but rarely disclosed the full mechanics of advancement. Leaders celebrated humility but competed fiercely behind the scenes. The discrepancy is not always malicious, but it reveals a truth. Rules are taught broadly, while exceptions are reserved for those who understand context. If you live by expectations rigidly, others may quietly use your predictability to strengthen their own positions. Sometimes this is not just personal but systemic, as entire structures function better when populations follow rules without questioning their fairness. Recognizing this opens a door. Once you see that the world operates on layered principles rather than simple ideals, you gain options. The choice becomes whether you continue with partial information or whether you learn the deeper mechanics of psychology that shape every interaction. Write another affirmation: I see clearly. Awareness provides the ability to shift how you respond, no longer bound by the conditioning that benefits others more than yourself. There is also the matter of presentation, which alters outcomes as much as substance itself. Many people assume that success comes from a single fixed way of expressing yourself. They believe authenticity means never adjusting to context, that honesty demands absolute uniformity, that influence should not consider the audience. But study the lives of effective communicators and you will see a different pattern. They adapt. They adjust tone, emphasis, and framing without betraying their core values. They recognize that people react not only to what you say, but how you say it. Communication is contextual, and ignoring context reduces your reach. Less strategic individuals imagine that one rigid style proves their integrity, but what it really proves is their lack of flexibility. Influence, by contrast, comes from meeting people where they are while maintaining your center. This is not deception, it is intelligence. As one thinker noted, everyone sees appearances, but only a few understand the deeper self. To navigate effectively, you must manage what others perceive without losing who you are. Consider common scenarios. In a family setting, you can share personal experiences, but wisdom guides you to reveal stories that create connection without erasing healthy privacy. Overexposure creates discomfort, while balanced sharing builds bonds. In professional discussions, if you confront someone with excessive technical detail to prove expertise, you may alienate them. But if you communicate in accessible terms, you gain influence and respect. When correcting misinformation, shouting truths in public may satisfy your ego, but quietly addressing the issue in a way that preserves trust may achieve far more. Each scenario demonstrates that successful presentation is not rigid honesty, detached from context, but intelligent framing that respects both message and audience. Those who thrive understand that authenticity does not mean uniformity. It means aligning intention with effective expression across varied circumstances. Most people imagine that the pathway to trust and achievement is a single, unbroken line of consistent behavior. Yet the individuals who shape outcomes on a larger scale know something different. They recognize that circumstances alter the rules, and that to remain effective, one must constantly adapt without abandoning core principles. Those who cling tightly to one method often find that yesterday's solution becomes tomorrow's limitation. The human mind seeks predictability, but environments shift too quickly for rigid habits to remain effective indefinitely. Think about how often people are told that shifting your stance shows weakness, or that adapting your approach compromises authenticity. Yet adaptability is not betrayal. It is recognition that the world is not static. The context of a negotiation today may differ entirely from the context tomorrow, and those who cannot sense these differences gradually lose influence. This does not mean discarding principles whenever convenient. It means applying principles intelligently, aligning values with a clear-eyed assessment of the situation. Imagine the sailor who insists on keeping sails fixed regardless of shifting winds. Such a sailor may pride themselves on consistency, but their vessel drifts aimlessly while others adjust to currents and arrive at their destinations. In life, those who resist adaptation often call themselves steadfast, yet their results tell another story. Effective leaders, teachers, and reformers, whether ancient or modern, have always combined moral clarity with tactical flexibility. The tragedy is that many ordinary people are conditioned to view flexibility as weakness rather than wisdom. And so they remain fixed in place, admirable in intention but stagnant in progress. Ask yourself honestly, are you clinging to methods that once made sense but no longer serve you? If so, you have encountered the very barrier that keeps many talented people from realizing their potential. Write this truth to yourself: I adapt with intelligence. For adaptability is not surrender. It is the art of steering principles through ever-changing waters. There is also a dimension of human interaction that is less visible yet profoundly influential: the unspoken rules of perception and influence. Too often, people imagine that if their intentions are pure, others will naturally recognize it. Yet the reality is that perception shapes outcomes as much as truth itself. You may be entirely sincere, but if your presentation signals weakness, dismissal, or overexposure, the impact of your sincerity diminishes. The world does not operate solely on substance. It also responds to signals. This is why skilled individuals manage not only what they communicate, but how it appears to those receiving it. They understand that one must sometimes highlight particular qualities while allowing others to remain in the background, not to deceive, but to ensure that their message is actually heard. Consider how reputation works. People rarely see your complete reality. They perceive fragments shaped by moments, tone, and impressions. Those who are unskilled in managing impressions believe that any adjustment equals dishonesty. Those who are wise recognize that self-presentation is part of honest communication. To be understood, you must adapt language, expression, and even silence to the capacity of your audience. An expert who shares raw technical detail with someone unfamiliar risks alienation. The same expert explaining with clarity and relevance opens doors. The difference lies not in truth but in framing. The thinker who once observed that everyone sees what you appear to be, while few know the deeper reality, was not endorsing lies, but acknowledging that appearance is part of human interaction. If you ignore this, your influence shrinks, no matter how noble your message. When you manage it intelligently, you create openings to express truth in ways that resonate. Authenticity does not vanish when adapted. It grows stronger because it meets others where they are. Remember this affirmation: I present wisely. Another crucial insight lies in understanding the hidden exchange present in every relationship, whether professional, social, or personal. Interactions are not one-directional flows of kindness or authority. They are negotiations, often subtle, where needs, boundaries, and expectations are tested. The people who achieve lasting impact recognize that reciprocity is not automatic. It must be established and reinforced. If you continually give without discernment, you may believe you are modeling generosity, but what you are truly doing is teaching others that your resources, your energy, and your time are endlessly available without acknowledgement. This is not moral superiority. It is self-erasure. Those who exploit such dynamics do not always do so consciously. Sometimes it is learned behavior, encouraged by a system that rewards compliance and penalizes resistance. Yet the result is the same. Your silence and endless patience become tools others use to advance while you remain stationary. Think of the colleague who always asks for help but never reciprocates, or the friend who assumes your schedule bends while theirs is immovable. Each time you tell yourself it is virtuous to comply without question, you reinforce the very imbalance that holds you back. Meanwhile, observe how those same people guard their own time fiercely when their priorities are at stake. They understand instinctively what you were trained to forget. Fairness without boundaries is exploitation. The great irony is that those who conditioned you to believe self-protection is selfish often protect their own interests with remarkable vigilance. They did not misinterpret the world. They simply preferred you to remain predictable. If you want to break this cycle, you must see reciprocity as a core principle of healthy exchange. Forgiveness can be powerful, but forgiveness without accountability invites repetition. Generosity can inspire, but generosity without boundaries creates dependence. The lesson is not to abandon kindness, but to apply it intelligently, expecting mutual respect in return. Affirm to yourself, I set boundaries with wisdom. The deeper you study these patterns, the more you realize that influence in human affairs is not a matter of luck, but of understanding layered dynamics. Systems, whether families, workplaces, or entire societies, operate partly by encouraging certain groups to follow expectations strictly while allowing others to bend or bypass them. This is how predictability is created in one direction and flexibility in another. The question then becomes, will you continue living by incomplete information, or will you learn to read the fuller picture? Awareness is the turning point. Once you begin noticing how people shape perceptions, balance principles with tactics, and establish boundaries selectively, you stop being the passive participant in scripts written by others. You begin writing your own. This does not mean abandoning morality. It means strengthening it with comprehension. True wisdom is not the rejection of values, but the alignment of values with reality. The individuals who leave legacies of change did not achieve their results by staying naive. They studied human nature, applied intelligence to their integrity, and navigated circumstances with adaptability. They resisted the false choice between purity and manipulation by choosing a third path, principled wisdom. You too can follow that path, but it requires courage to let go of comforting illusions and embrace the discipline of strategic thought. If you are prepared for that, the patterns of the world will begin revealing themselves everywhere you look, and your ability to act effectively without losing yourself will expand dramatically. Write one final affirmation: I walk with wisdom. For wisdom unites clarity, adaptability, integrity, and influence, creating the rare capacity to achieve genuine goals in a world that constantly tests them. The individual who relies solely on blunt responses often escalates tension without resolving anything meaningful, whereas the one who uses foresight and tact addresses the actual issue while also preserving valuable connections. This contrast shows that communication with strategy is not about trickery or falsehoods, but about recognizing that intelligence lies in adjusting one's approach to achieve outcomes that serve everyone involved. People who demand sameness in every circumstance frequently trap themselves in limited results, mistaking rigidity for integrity, when in reality, it often prevents them from being truly effective. Their criticisms usually stem from misunderstanding how layered and adaptive communication functions in the real world. True authenticity does not mean refusing to adapt. It means possessing the wisdom to shape your expression so others can receive it in the most constructive way. Real integrity allows you to help the people you value by expressing ideas in ways they can understand and respect. Strategic communication builds trust, influence, and opportunities to create the positive transformations you desire. If you cling only to rigid moral consistency without learning how to translate that consistency into effective influence, your impact will shrink. But when you acquire the skill to blend intention with results, you gain the ability to leave larger marks on the world. Those on the sidelines may judge adaptability harshly because they only observe the surface. But those who actually create meaningful progress, decision makers, innovators and builders, understand that flexible. Intelligent communication is essential. Sophistication in expression is not dishonesty, it is effectiveness. It is not the loss of authenticity, it is completeness. If you learn to master contextual communication, you learn how to create progress in many situations where others remain stuck. Affirm this truth. I master communication. There are also barriers far less visible than external challenges. Barriers built inside the mind that prevent countless people from achieving what they could. These inner walls are not made of stone but of beliefs, assumptions that whisper you are unworthy, unprepared, or too ambitious. They are not based on reality but on conditioning repeated until it feels natural. Many live entire lives restrained by these invisible chains, hesitating to pursue opportunities, doubting their right to claim space, or apologizing for desires that threaten no one. Think of the countless moments where you stopped yourself, not because the world refused you, but because you decided you were not ready or not deserving. That hesitation was not wisdom. It was training. And the critical question is, who benefits from this self-doubt? Rarely is it you. More often, systems and individuals gain from your silence, your hesitation, your willingness to remain smaller than you are capable of being. Limiting beliefs say growth is greed. Yet why should you shrink while others expand freely? They say developing yourself is selfish, but logic shows the opposite. Investing in your capacity strengthens your ability to contribute meaningfully. They say your success will diminish others, yet in most cases your advancement creates opportunities for many more. Consider who instilled these doubts. Notice how those who discouraged your ambition rarely imposed the same rules on themselves. They acted decisively while telling you to stay cautious. They pursued opportunities while urging you to be content. The truth is that self-doubt is often designed by others' comfort zones, not your own. But when you recognize this, the power to break free returns to you. Machiavelli once noted that it is not titles that confer honor, but individuals who bring honor to the roles they hold. Similarly, you do not need permission to grow, nor approval to claim your worth. You simply need the courage to act, even when doubt lingers. Those who succeed do not eliminate uncertainty. They reframe it, insisting that ambition is responsibility, that focus is service, that growth is contribution. Affirm this to yourself. I choose growth. Once you begin dismantling these mental walls, you start to see the broader structure of how effective people operate. They do not cling to binary definitions of ethics where every choice is reduced to right or wrong without context. Instead, they understand that integrity must function within reality, and they apply values in ways that serve a larger mission of creating genuine, positive impact. This is what can be called strategic ethics. It does not discard morality. It refines it. You practice generosity when it builds trust and cooperation. You embrace transparency when it strengthens credibility and positions people to make informed, constructive decisions. You extend forgiveness when it encourages real improvement and sets the stage for stronger relationships. But when kindness enables exploitation, when complete openness damages rather than heals, when forgiveness grants permission for repeated harm, you choose differently. You adapt with wisdom. Machiavelli once remarked that the wise act quickly, while the foolish only learn after long suffering. The person who never thinks strategically often spends years being drained before they set boundaries. The one who blends principle with intelligence establishes limits early, preventing unnecessary damage for everyone involved. Look at how this plays out in practical life. A colleague repeatedly seeks your help without offering support in return. The simple approach is to continue giving endlessly. The strategic approach is to explain that reciprocity is necessary for any partnership to thrive. If you hold information that could be valuable but sensitive, the simplistic choice is silence or reckless truth-telling. The strategic path is to share insights in ways that allow everyone to benefit without causing preventable harm. If someone spreads misinformation about you, ignoring it might seem noble, but strategically correcting it ensures your reputation remains intact and demonstrates fairness to all observers. Strategic ethics does not make you ruthless. It makes you whole. It equips you with a complete set of responses, allowing you to choose the one that advances real progress rather than blindly repeating ineffective patterns. Reflect on the figures who reshaped history. They did not succeed by following rules mechanically, but by applying ethical judgment contextually. Affirm for yourself, I create positive impact. Arriving here, you face a choice that will define how much of your potential is realized. This is the point where theory becomes decision, where you choose between clinging to limited approaches or embracing sophisticated understanding. The cost of remaining bound to oversimplification is subtle, not catastrophic. It does not destroy in a single moment. Instead, it chips away quietly, one missed chance at a time. Each time you remain silent when your voice could have mattered, you reinforce to others that your input is unnecessary. Each time you pursue comfort over respect, you exchange influence for approval. Each time you fail to challenge beliefs that no longer serve you, you reduce your ability to shape the outcomes of your own life. The hidden price is not only lost opportunities, but the version of yourself you might have become if you had acted differently. Right now, someone with skills no greater than yours has achieved the life you imagine. They hold influence you crave, results you desire, respect you seek. The difference? They understood earlier that good intentions alone do not move the world. Effectiveness does. They realize that ethics gains true strength only when paired with the ability to act powerfully. They recognize that those who teach simplistic rules rarely follow them in their own pursuits. Machiavelli once suggested that it is safer to be respected through strength than loved through weakness. Applied to your life, this means it is better to be taken seriously for your competence than to be dismissed despite your sincerity. The uneasiness you feel in hearing this is not proof of error. It is evidence of conditioning. You were trained to believe effectiveness is selfish, but look at the results of those who taught you. Did their rigid advice lead to the outcomes they promised? Often the answer is no. The choice is clear. Continue being the person who means well yet achieves little, or become the person who combines intention with intelligence to achieve much. Remember, the dynamics of influence exist whether you acknowledge them or not. The only question is whether you will learn them and use them, or remain bound by incomplete information. History rarely remembers those who simply meant well. It remembers those who acted effectively while staying true to deeper principles. Affirm, I choose power. Power in this context is not about dominance for its own sake. It is about gaining the capacity to make your ethical choices meaningful in reality. Without influence, even the most noble values remain whispers. With capability, your values become actions that transform circumstances. The world does not reward purity detached from effectiveness. It rewards those who are wise enough to unite morality with practicality. To step into this perspective is not to become manipulative, but to become whole. Someone who can act with ethics when ethics create good, and who can act strategically when strategy ensures that good prevails. That is the essence of sophistication. It is not abandoning principle, but empowering it through intelligence. You now possess insights many never discover, that communication requires adaptability, that beliefs can either limit or liberate, that ethics must function strategically, and that effectiveness is the bridge between vision and reality. The only question left is what you will do with this knowledge. You can dismiss it and remain where you are, or you can integrate it and step forward into a life of greater impact. Those who understand these truths eventually build the capacity to influence not just their own circumstances, but the broader systems around them. And when enough people embrace this path, entire communities transform. Affirm finally, I choose to act with wisdom, effectiveness, and power. For the world belongs to those who see its real rules, and victory belongs to those who are prepared to use them with clarity and integrity.